Got it. Okay. All right, then I'm gonna mute everybody now. And we'll get going. So come to your comfortable seat. There we go. Every once in a while, my screen just doesn't quite do what I want it to do, and I end up having to tap it a whole bunch of times. Okay, so as you come to your comfortable seat, I think that that's the tricky part here, is to recognize that, especially when you first sit, your seat might not be that comfortable. And so to increase the feeling of comfort, add the props, sit up higher, maybe set something underneath your legs, or maybe don't sit cross-legged at all. That can be a really helpful thing. Sometimes when I'm starting out a practice, I sit with my feet in front of me instead. So maybe experiment and see what feels more comfortable here. And then as you sit tall, lengthening all the way from your tailbone. So think of a little tilt forward with your pelvis, your belly coming forward. Lengthen ribs up and collarbones up. And then let your eyes close. As you start to take a couple deep breaths here, begin to let your breath slowly, gradually become a little bit slower and deeper, more full. Especially focusing on that exhale, the press of the breath out. Your inhale might naturally increase a little bit when you give that focus to the exhale. As you take a couple more big breaths here, even find the pause at the top of the inhale and the pause at the bottom of the exhale. Begin to connect your hands together at heart center. And as you again lift up through your sides, lift your ribs and your collarbones, lengthen the back of your neck. And as you exhale now, bow toward your heart, letting fingertips and forehead connect if that's comfortable. And take another full, big, deep breath. Then as you softly open your eyes and release your hands down, lift up with your gaze. And bringing shoulder blades to connect on your back again, take your right ear over to your right shoulder. Couple big breaths here, and you might re-engage the left shoulder blade a couple of times onto your back. Inhale, come back up to center. And exhale, take left ear to left shoulder. And again, re-engage the right shoulder blade a couple times if you'd like. You don't have to, you can just keep it on your back. Inhale back up to center and exhale left or right ear to right shoulder rather. Take a hold of the side of your head with your right hand if that's comfortable. If it's tough to put your hand on the side of your head, then feel free to just keep that lean. You don't have to hold on to your head. But now we're moving the neck muscles on the left out to the left. And so it's a little bit of a lean in that direction. Take a big deep breath. Then inhale back up to center and exhale left ear to left shoulder. And again, holding onto the side of your head if that's comfortable. And then move your right neck muscles out to the right side. A little bit of a lean. Full breath. Then inhale back into center And now switch the cross of your legs. We'll come to the less comfortable cross for ourselves here. Shift your sitting bones to enable a little bit more of that pelvic movement, the pelvic tilt. Belly a little bit forward. And then as you press your hands down into your legs, move your shoulder blades onto your back, and then shake your head no. And take this movement slowly enough so that on each side you can think about your chin and your opposite shoulder moving away from each other. One more time on each side. And then as you turn your head over to the right side, tuck your chin down, and then take gratitude with the left arm. So your elbow hugs in, palm is lifted, and you're rotating with your upper arm bone. So your thumb is moving toward the wall behind you. Take a full, big, deep breath. Then inhale back up to center, and exhale, turning your head over to the left side and tucking your chin down. Gratitude on the right side, elbow hugs in and find that rotation. Find more expansion through the front of the chest, the work of the shoulder blade, deep breath. And then coming back into center now, let's shift forward onto your hands and your knees. And from your hands and knees, we're going to make our way to standing. So you have your choice. You can do that from hands and knees, or you can lift up into a downward dog for a moment and then walk forward. So as you find your way to your forward fold, take a moment there. Feet are inner hip distance apart and parallel or wider. You can always have them a little wider here, especially if the hips, the hamstrings, the low back are tight. So now inhale and lengthen part way. Keep a bend to your knees. Hands come up above your knees here to send your sitting bones up and extend your heart forward. Exhale and fold over your legs. Inhale, hands up above your knees again. Again, knees are bent, sitting bones lift, extend your heart, and then work your hands up your legs to rise all the way up to stand. Feet can stay a little wide here for a moment if you would like, but we're going to get a little bit more into the hips. So a little bend to your knees. And as you bend your knees, you're going to start to tilt your pelvis so your belly is dropping down and your sitting bones are moving back. And then you're going to tilt it the other way, like you're tucking your tail. And then you're going to keep moving slowly from a pelvic tilt forward and a pelvic tilt back, anterior tilt, posterior tilt. And as you do this, you're trying to keep your knees bent and relatively stationary. This is tricky sometimes if you've got some tightness there. Sometimes your knees want to move forward and back instead of your hips. So now, as you move your sitting bones back and your belly a little down, take your hands to your upper thighs, right up at your hip creases, and push. Give a little push like you're trying to push your thigh bones back. Send your sitting bones back, your knees are bent, lift your chest. Take a full, big, deep breath here. And now as you stand all the way up, as you rise up and your legs become more straight, keep a little micro bend, especially if you tend to lock your knees back like we humans like to do. Let's go ahead and stretch a little bit more through our shoulders. So bring hands behind you to clasp, or you can make fists at your low back, whichever feels the best in your body today. Keep a little bend to your knees and try to find a little bit of that movement back with sitting bones. So it's like your thigh bones, upper thigh bones are trying to push back as your knees are bent. Now, as you push a little down onto your low back, either with clasped hands or with hands and fists, lift with your chest. Open up through your heart space. Think of shoulder blades engaging and elbows hugging toward each other, collarbones lifting. Big deep breath. And now, hands stay as they are if that's comfortable. You're now going to hinge at your hips, knees bent, push hips back, heart forward, and fold over your legs. So now you have that forward fold with a little bit of heart opening as well. Shoulder blades are engaging. Elbows are hugging back toward each other. Take one more big breath. And then release your hands down. You can plant fingertips on blocks or the floor and step your right foot back into your lunge. And then you're turning and planting your back heel so your foot is parallel to the back of your mat. Bend into your front knee and think of opening it up more toward the pinky toe edge. Bring left elbow to your knee, right hand to your hip as you open up to a side angle pose. Take a full big deep breath and push your elbow down. Find your ribs lifting up. Maybe stretch straight up or over your ear with your right arm if that feels good. One more deep breath. Exhale, both hands come down to the front of your mat. You're tucking your back toes and stepping forward. Next exhale, left foot steps back. Turn and plant your back foot so your foot's parallel to the back of your mat. Right elbow to your knee, left hand to your hip. And again, you're bending into your front knee and turning it open toward the pinky toe edge, even as you turn your belly and your heart open to the left side. Push your elbow down, ribs lift, and then maybe you stretch straight up or over your ear. Big breath. Exhaling, both hands come down to the front of your mat. You're tucking your back toes and stepping forward. Inhale, lengthen part way, long spine. Exhale and fold over your legs. Then hands to hips. Press back on hips. Lift elbows, lift shoulders, and rise all the way up to stand. Coming to this already open place through the front of your chest. Bring feet into inner hip distance apart and parallel. Lift and spread your toes and root them. And now a little balance. So as you take your weight over to the left leg, lift your right knee up and hold on to it. From this place, if you want to be beside a wall or a chair, you're welcome to be. You can always be holding on to something or just have it close to you. Sometimes that's all you need. Flex your foot and wrap your hip down on the right side so your knee will turn a tiny bit more to the right. Take a big deep breath. And now with your left hand, if it's accessible, you're going to press back on the upper thigh, right up at the hip crease. And as you press back, your thigh bone gets to move back and also turn sideways. So hopefully you can see that movement. So instead of the thigh bone pushing forward, which it really likes to do in our balances, I'm pushing it back in space to create a little more space through that hip joint. Take a big deep breath. Keep that opening through that left hip and open the right knee up to the right side. Tendency here is for that hip to pop forward again, so try to push it back in space. Big breath. Inhale back into center and exhale, release your foot down and then shake it out. Second side, finding your balance onto your left or your right foot rather. Lift your left knee up. And you're holding on to your knee here, and then you might have right hand at a wall or at a chair or whatever you would like to help you balance. Or if it's in your practice, you can take your hand right to your thigh and press it back. Keep that press back, and then find that wrapping down of your hip on the left side. Now go ahead and open. Take a full breath. Press your thigh bone back. Unlock your knee joint because it really likes to lock when we push our thigh bone back. Yeah, good. Okay, inhale back into center and exhale, foot back to the ground. Feet inner hip distance apart and parallel. Lift and spread your toes and root. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, soft knees as you fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen, long spine. Exhale and fold. And now planting fingertips, we're stepping right foot back into our lunge. And from this place, we're bringing our back knee down to the ground and bringing our hands up to our knee in front. So we're getting a little thigh stretch. And if you find that your body is not ready to bring hands up high, then feel free to keep them down. It's okay. But now As you wrap the left hip back, the right hip will come a little forward. Now remember that space we just created in our standing leg while we were balancing. We're gonna try to create that little hip crease in the back leg, in the right thigh. So push down with your back knee and try to drag it a little forward, even as you let your hip lift a little and move back. Keep that little space at the hip crease, even as you bend your knee a little deeper in the front leg. Lift your chest, lift your heart. Try not to let that hip sink in. Full big breath. Hands come to your hips, walk them further back. Open up through the front body, expanding through the chest. Good, and now both hands come down to the front of your mat, and now find the highest point of your blocks and work your front leg towards straight. And as you come to this, as you pull your toes back towards your nose, wrap your hip back on the left leg and send both sitting bones back and up. Extend your heart forward, take one more big breath. Then inhale, bend into your front knee, and this time step all the way back to a downward facing dog pose and take a full breath. The same thing here, trying to make more of that hip crease. Bend your knees until your sitting bones further up so your belly will move more towards your legs. And then as you press your thigh bones back, work your legs a little bit more towards straight. Think of not pushing through the knees, but pushing through the upper thigh bones. And then walk your way forward, coming into your forward fold at the front of your mat. Take an inhale and lengthen part way, long spine. Exhale and fold over your legs. And now you're planting fingertips and stepping left foot back into your lunge. Back knee to the ground if that's in your practice. You can always do these with your back knee lifted, that's okay. But bring your hands up to your knee if that's comfortable. And now, as you wrap your right hip back so your knee turns a little more open, push your back knee down and drag it a little forward isometrically so it doesn't actually move. That helps you to lift your hip a little bit. As you create a little space in that hip, bend deeper into your front knee, but try not to lose that space in the back hip. It's tricky. Yeah, lift your chest, your heart, and then this time, if you'd like, gratitude arms, take a full, big, deep breath. Exhaling, hands come down to the front of your mat. And then work your front leg towards straight. And as you work your front leg towards straight, you're pulling your toes back, lengthening the calf muscle here. Wrap your right hip back and send sitting bones up. So a little hamstring stretch, lengthening through the low back. Instead of rounding it, extend your ribs and your collarbones forward. And then inhale, bend into your front knee. And once again, step back. Downward facing dog pose. Take a full breath. And now as you inhale and come forward into your plank, you're welcome to bring your knees down if that's the most comfortable thing for you right now. But rotate your elbow pits forward and push. Extend your front forward, but don't let your belly drop. Don't let your ribs drop. Bend elbows now and lower down all the way to your belly. And then walk your hands back right by your ribs. Walk back with your legs so you're lengthening through your hips, your legs, your thighs. And now press down with the shoelace parts of your feet. Think of grabbing the floor with your toenails. And then press down with your knees. And have the intention here of having that help you lift up with your upper thighs a little bit. So you're tilting sitting bones up. And now exhale into your low belly and your ribs. Inhale, lift up and open through your chest. Exhale, low belly and ribs engage. Inhale, rise up as high as your body is ready for here. Exhale all the way back down. You can set hands down, head down, Take a couple big breaths. You can even bend your knees and windshield wiper your legs if you would like. And now push all the way back, hips to heels. Take your child's pose. That's as deeply back with your hips as your body is comfortable with. And then push yourself all the way up to your seat. And we're coming down to sitting bones and extending our legs all the way out in front of us. So we have a lengthening of the backs of our legs. Now, take your hands to just behind the knees, and you might have to do one at a time if sitting up tall here is tricky, and that's okay. But I want you to feel the backs of your knees. And for those of you who tend to hyperextend, then you might feel a big bulge there downward. So push down with your heels and feel that back of your knee area lift a little. And we're going for that support at the back of the knee, support for the hamstring connections there. Now, if hamstrings feel really tight today, low back feels really tight today, then walk your feet in so you have a considerable bend to your knees. Keep pressing down, and now if you have a bend to your knees, you shouldn't feel much of a bulge at all, if any. Press down with fingertips, lift your ribs up high, and wherever you are with the bend to your knees, you're staying long through your spine to fold. Maybe that means reaching out for your toes, or your shins, or the floor beside you, or even staying more upright. Push down with your heels and even think of dragging them back isometrically. Again, so they don't actually move, but that dragging back might help you to tilt your pelvis so your belly's dropping forward. Full big breath. Long through your spine here. If walking your feet a little bit more forward is in your practice, then feel free. But keep pushing down and drawing back isometrically to help you find that length all the way down low at your pelvis. One more big breath. And then inhale, rise all the way back up. And we're going to bend our knees and come all the way down onto our backs. And be sure that you can reach all of your props. And as you rest down, we're pulling knees up close for just a moment. And that can be wide or narrow, whichever feels the best. But then little pulses inward to find that little bit of compression here. And now set your left foot down, and you're going to extend the right leg straight up, as straight as your body is ready for. So remember that bulge at the knee that we were trying to make a little bit less. Keep enough of a bend to your knee so there isn't a bulge there, okay? That might be a considerable bend, or that might just be a little bend. Now hold the back side of your thigh with your left hand. Right thumb comes into your right hip crease, and you're giving your hip a push so that the whole leg rotates in the hip sockets. You might see your whole leg turn, your toes will turn to the right. From that place, just a tiny movement of your leg across your body to the left side. So we're getting a little bit more into the IT band here. Now, if you want to, you can take your fingertips on the right hand and do a little rubbing up and down the outside edge of your leg, maybe into your glutes. Reach through the heel and down through the hip at the same time. And now back into center and set your foot on the ground and lengthen your left leg. And again, reach back behind the knee and feel that bulge, and then bend your knee enough so the bulge disappears. Keep a reach through your heel. You're going to hold on to the back side of your thigh with your right hand, left thumb into your hip crease, and give a push Find that rotation. It helps to even out the hips here. Take a full big breath. And then that slight movement across the body with the leg to get into the outside of the leg a little bit. Reach through your heel and down through the hip. And then maybe rub the outside edge of your leg. Maybe into the glute. Take one more big breath here. And then come back into center, bend your knees, set both feet on the ground. And then drop your knees in together to touch. And you can take hands right up to your hip creases. And again, you're pushing your thigh bones. Just like when we were standing in our balance, this is an opportunity to create a little more space through the hip. You might feel your pelvis tilt here. This is sometimes a really nice thing to do for the low back. So now take a big breath into your low back. Think of letting your inhales expand your low back muscles down. And your exhales to release them. Couple more big breaths this way. And now you're releasing your hands and starting to work into your favorite version of a resting pose, your Shavasana. A blanket over the hips and belly or a rolled up blanket underneath the neck is always a nice thing to do for yourself here. So take the time to find the most supportive place. Think of those first couple of breaths as your opportunity to shift and make it more comfortable. And then let yourself find stillness. Begin to take a deeper breath. And gently add some movement into fingers and toes. As you're ready to bend your knees and roll over to your side. Slowly, gently bring yourself back up to your seat. Hands coming to connect at heart center. Take a moment to sit just a little taller and to deepen your breath. Send it into more spaces. Have a very peaceful, beautiful day. Namaste. Thanks, everybody.